think I'm live. I don't have the right amount of books propping up the camera. It's alright. Well, hello. How is everybody? I need antihistamines. I have some, but I already took the daily dose. And I spent $6 on a necklace of a snake. And the amazing thing is, it's got a little magnet. So you can make it more longer or more shorter. Low Visa, $6. I think it comes in gold as well, but they didn't have any of those when I was there. Yeah, I was so happy. Hello, XQ. XC. It'll be a little bit congested today, but that's all right because I'm going to be reading Yellow Wallpaper, which has a woman who's sick as the narrator. Oh, is she? Hello, Julie B. Scales, if I'm seeing the profile picture right. Hi. I'm really glad you're here and listening. Yeah, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna talk for a little bit. Flora was on my lap and she was being really mean about it. So I wasn't really ready. But I'm just gonna talk for a little bit until 4:50 because that's when I said the stream would start. I really doubt anybody is sitting around hanging out. Like, I'm going to join the stream at exactly 4:50. 3:50, sorry. Told you I'm so out of it. I'm really tired because Fitz, he can hear me. He woke me at 4:20 in the morning. I know. 4:20, let Mr. Fitz out to the wee wee's house every day. And I can't get back to sleep, so I've been up a wee while. Hey, we got 5 in the chat now. Oh, 4 again. Goodbye, England's Rose. Yes, no, I was talking. And yeah, I was going to talk to you about I have to get a better light system. I have stacks of books, putting a lamp right onto my face, so it blinds me a little bit, and my laptop, it's on one of those cat towers that they're meant to climb, but they actually just ignore. And it's also propped up by a bunch of books, which kind of works. Oh, I can't sneeze. Fuck. Okay. I was going to read it all the way through before reading this aloud for you guys. But I'm thinking that I want to just kind of, because I've read The Yellow Wallpaper, like, it's an absolute classic, but it hasn't been in for a really long time, and I think that, I don't know, just with like maturity, maybe, which I have a lot of, it just might be a bit different now. It might resonate differently, and I kind of wanted to have that experience with all 4 of you and some people in the future, maybe, if anyone watches these videos. Or Charlotte Perkins Gilman. So it's a story about like all the stories that I've been reading, Ligeia, Berenice, both the Bradburys, they are stories about the ideal heterosexual relationship. Fairy tale romances. The best a het can get. I resign myself to my fate. But yeah, as I remember it, it's a story that I think it resonates with a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Yes. Well, I've never said it before, so that's you can steal that if you want. Yeah, I want a wonderful relationship like the one with the guy who murdered their child in an October game because he didn't like his wife and never had. Wonderful. So beautiful. Oh, do you know what I should do though? Because I've read like 1,000 billion stories so far by my count. So what I should do is read like Carmilla or something. So we don't just have these endless tragic hetero tragedy ghost stories. Carmilla is not strictly a ghost story, but back when it was written, they didn't really demarcate. Is that the word I want? They didn't have these strict kind of categories that this is a vampire and this is a ghost and this is a witch. It was all just kind of, this is some kind of fucked up undead creature. Yeah, I might do Carmilla. It is a novella. Don't know. I think I need like a cushion on the seat. I don't know. But okay, we're 7 minutes in. For 7 minutes about nothing. And we are ready to go because it is 3:50 p.m. right now. Thank you very much, XQRX, for being here. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, John and Danny, who I assume are here, and Evelyn and Diana and Honey, who I also assume are here. Or will be in the future. And hello, Flora. Come on. Come on. Now that we're all here, going to read. Oh, okay, so now there are only 2 people in chat. That's... Guess I've already done all the good stuff. My shitty unplanned ramblings. Okay. We ready? We good? Sorry, everybody. Just some stuff. Okay. And yes, we are. Oh shit! I've just done something else that's stupid. All right. We're ready to begin a ghost story for Christmas, and today's ghost story for Christmas is The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, the first female writer I've done a story of. I feel terrible about this. Hey, John, you're there. Sweet beeps. I've decided to start saying that instead of sweet beans. It's like sweep, like sweeping the floor, and then beeps, like how a machine beeps. It's really annoying and dumb, and I think everyone's going to really hate it at Christmas, so that's my thing now. Okay, yellow wallpaper, let's go. It is very seldom that mere ordinary people like John and myself secure ancestral halls for the summer. A colonial mansion, a hereditary estate, I would say a haunted house, and reach the height of romantic felicity, but that would be asking too much of fate. Still, I will proudly declare that there is something queer about it. Else, why should it be let so cheaply? And why have stood so long untenanted? John laughs at me, of course, but one expects that in marriage. Ah, John, your name's in this story. That's funny. That's just a footnote. John is practical on the extreme. He has no patience with faith, an intense horror of superstition, and he scoffs openly at any talk of things not to be felt and seen and put down in figures. John is a physician, and perhaps, I would not say it to a living soul, of course, but this is dead paper and a great relief to my mind. Perhaps that is one reason I do not get well faster. You see, he does not believe I am sick. And what can one do? If a physician of high standing and one's own husband assures friends and relatives that there is really nothing the matter with one but temporary nervous depression, a slight hysterical tendency, what is one to do? Yeah, this is still the case. I'm really glad no one told Charlotte that in her lifetime. My brother is also a physician and also of high standing, and he says the same thing. So I take phosphates or phosphites, whichever it is, and tonics and journeys and air and exercise, and am absolutely forbidden to work until I am well again. Personally, I disagree with their ideas. Personally, I believe that congenial work with excitement and change would do me good. But what is one to do? I did write for a while in spite of them, but it does exhaust me a good deal, having to be so sly about it, or else meet with heavy opposition. Ah ha ha, John, people are saying F you in chat. I should change the guy's name from the story. I'm not going to. Sorry. Right, down lozenge. H2Ho, dumb bitch fizz. Official non-sponsor. I sometimes fancy that in my condition, if I had less opposition and more society and stimulus, but John says the very worst thing I can do is to think about my condition, and I confess it always makes me feel bad. So I will let it alone and talk about the house. The most beautiful place. It is quite alone, standing well back from the road, quite 3 miles from the village. It makes me think of English places that you read about, for there are hedges and walls and gates that lock, and lots of separate little houses for the gardeners and people. There is a delicious garden. I never saw such a garden. Large and shady, full of box-bordered paths and lined with long grape-covered arbours with seats under them. There were greenhouses too, but they are all broken now. There was some legal trouble, I believe, something about the heirs and co-heirs. Anyhow, the place has been empty for years. That spoils my ghostliness, I'm afraid, but I don't care. There is something strange about the house. I can feel it. I agree. Your name is Chi John now. Sorry. I even said so to John one moonlight evening, but he said what I felt was a draught and shut the window. I get unreasonably angry with John sometimes. I'm sure I never used to be so sensitive. I think it is due to this nervous condition. But John says if I feel so, I shall neglect proper self-control. So I take pains to control myself, before him at least, and that makes me very tired. God damn, this is about hetero relationships. They're great. They're the best. I don't like our room a bit. I wanted one downstairs that opened on the piazza and had roses all over the window and such pretty old-fashioned chintz hangings, but John would not hear of it. He said there was only one window, and not room for two beds, and no near room for him if he took another. He is very careful and loving, and hardly lets me stir without special direction. I have a scheduled prescription for each hour in the day. He takes all care from me, and so I feel basely ungrateful not to value it more. He said we came here solely on my account, that I was to have perfect rest and all the air I could get. Your exercise depends on your strength, my dear, said he, and your food somewhat on your appetite, but air you can absorb all the time. So we took the nursery at the top of the house. Yeah, I have to agree with you there, John, that there's got to be there's some resentment here already. Yeah, but why aren't I more grateful? I've done a lot of living since I last read this story, but that was what I wanted to do with you guys, which is why I haven't um, reread it again before doing this. So we took the nursery at the top of the house. It is a big, airy room, the whole floor nearly, with windows that look all ways, and air and sunshine galore. It was nursery first, and then playground and gymnasium, I should judge, for the windows are barred for little children, and there are rings and things in the walls. Yeah, now imagine you're a woman in Victorian England. Well, Victorian America, I think. Yeah, so Mr. Gray will see you now. The paint and paper looked as if a boys' school had used it. It is stripped off, the paper, in great patches all around the head of my bed, about as far as I can reach, and in a great place on the other side of the room, low down. I never saw a worse paper in my life. One of those sprawling, flamboyant patterns committing every artistic sin. Rings in the wall. Yeah. One of those sprawling, flamboyant patterns committing every artistic sin. It is dull enough to confuse the eye in following, pronounced enough to constantly irritate and provoke study, and when you follow the lame, uncertain curves for a little distance, they suddenly commit suicide, plunge off at outrageous angles, destroy themselves in unheard of contradictions. The colour is repellent, almost revolting, a smouldering, unclean yellow, strangely faded by the slow turning sunlight. It is a dull yet lurid orange in some places, a sickly sulphur tint in others. No wonder the children hated it. I should hate it myself if I had to live in this room long. There comes John, and I must put this away. He hates to have me write a word. Just letting Flora outside because that's where she wanted to go. So that's the end of the first entry. We've been here 2 weeks, and I haven't felt like writing before since that first day. I am sitting by the window now, up in this atrocious nursery, and there is nothing to hinder my writing as much as I please, save lack of strength. John is away all day, and even some nights when his cases are serious. I am glad my case is not serious, but these nervous troubles are dreadfully depressing. John does not know how much I really suffer. He knows that there is no reason to suffer, and that satisfies him. Of course, it is only nervousness. It does weigh on me so not to do my duty in any way. I meant to be such a help to John, such a real rest and comfort. And here I am, a comparative burden already. Nobody would believe what an effort it is to do what little I am able, to dress and entertain and order things. It is fortunate Mary is so good with the baby. Such a dear baby. And yet I cannot be with him. It makes me so nervous. This is the first mention of the baby, but she's terrified she's going to break the baby. I probably actually don't even need to say how much he knows there is no reason I should suffer, and that satisfies him. I mean, come on. Every mentally ill person in the world should read this story. But you don't have to, because I'm reading it for you. I suppose John never was nervous in his life. He laughs at me so about this wallpaper. Oh, I know. Babies. Unbelievable. My niece Celine, she got... Okay, this is probably not the time for her. She got the tip of her finger caught in the door. It grew back because she was like 2. True story, I know. Definitely worth a digression. I suppose John never was nervous in his life. He laughs at me so about this wallpaper. At first he meant to repaper the room, but afterwards he said that I was letting it get the better of me, and that nothing was worse for a nervous patient than to give way to such fancies. He said that after the wallpaper was changed, it would be the heavy bedstead, and then the barred windows, and then that gate at the head of the stairs, and so on. You know, the place is doing you good, he said, and really, dear, I don't care to renovate the house just for a 3 months rental. Oh, it's just for 3 months. That's fine then. Don't take the barred windows down and the gate off the top of the stairs. Yeah, she's locked in the attic. Then do let us go downstairs, I said. There are such pretty rooms there. Then he took me in his arms and called me a blessed little goose, and said he would go down the cellar if I wished, and have it whitewashed into the bargain. But he is right enough about the beds and windows and things. Yeah. Oh, darling, you can stay in the locked up, barred windowed attic, or the cellar. Either of those options. Pick and choose. This guy. Wow. He is right enough about the beds and windows and things. It is as airy and comfortable a room as anyone need wish. And of course, I would not be so silly as to make him uncomfortable just for a whim. I'm really getting quite fond of the big room, all with that horrid paper. Out of one window, I can see the garden, those mysterious deep shaded arbours, the riotous old fashioned flowers and bushes and gnarly trees. Out of another, I get a lovely view of the bay and a little private wharf belonging to the estate. There is a beautiful shaded lane that runs down there from the house. I always fancy I see people walking in these numerous paths and arbours, but John has cautioned me not to give way to fancy in the least. He says that with my imaginative power and habit of storytelling, a nervous weakness like mine is sure to lead to all manner of excited fancies, and that I ought to use my will and good sense to check the tendency. So I try. Yeah. Oh, I saw people walking down there the other day. You silly goose. No, you didn't. You stupid woman. You're always thinking things. I'm so glad I live in today times, however bad they still are. I think sometimes that if I were only well enough to write a little, it would relieve the press of ideas and rest me. But I find I get pretty tired when I try. It is so discouraging not to have any advice and companionship about my work. When I get really well, John says we will ask cousin Henry and Julia down for a long visit. But he says he would as soon put fireworks in my pillowcase as to let me have those stimulating people about now. I wish I could get well faster. But I must not think about that. This paper looks to me as if it knew what a vicious influence it had. There is a recurrent spot where the pattern lolls like a broken neck and two bulbous eyes stare at you upside down. I get positively angry with the impertinence of it and the everlastingness. Up and down and sideways they crawl, and those absurd, unblinking eyes are everywhere. There is one place where two breadths didn't match, and the eyes go all up and down the line, one a little higher than the other. I never saw so much expression in an inanimate thing before, and we all know how much expression they have. I used to lie awake as a child and get more entertainment and terror out of blank walls and plain furniture than most children could find in a toy store. I remember what a kindly wink the knobs of our big old bureau used to have, and there was one chair that always seemed like a strong friend. I used to feel that if any of the other things looked too fierce, I could always hop into that chair and be safe. The furniture in this room is no worse than inharmonious, however, for we had to bring it all from downstairs. I suppose when this was used as a playroom, they had to take the nursery things out, and no wonder. I never saw such ravages as the children have made here. The wallpaper, as I said before, is torn off in spots, and it sticketh closer than a brother. They must have had perseverance as well as hatred. Then the floor is scratched and gouged and splintered. Plaster itself is dug out here and there, and this great heavy bed, which is all we found in the room, looks as if it had been through the walls. But I don't mind it a bit. Only the paper. Here, there comes John's sister. Such a dear girl as she is, and so careful of me. I must not let her find me writing. She is a perfect and enthusiastic housekeeper, and hopes for no better profession. I verily believe she thinks it is the writing which makes me sick. But I can write when she is out, and see her a long way off from these windows. There is one that commands the road, a lovely, shaded, winding road, and one that just looks off over the country. A lovely country, too, full of great elms and velvet meadows. This wallpaper has a kind of sub-pattern in a different shade, a particularly irritating one, for you can only see it in certain lights and not clearly then. But in the places where it isn't faded, and where the sun is just so, I can see a strange, provoking, formless sort of figure that seems to sulk about behind that silly and conspicuous front design. There's Sister on the stairs. Few notes just here, because that's the end of that entry. I don't think you're in a playroom. I mean, she's in a Mr. Gray will see you now style playroom. I do not believe that this terrible walled barred attic with only an enormous bed that someone has clawed everything at from around it. Yeah, that's the room we all played in growing up. Jeez Louise. I can't remember if I picked up on that when I first read this or not. Okay, let's get back into the next entry. Well, the 4th of July is over. The people are gone and I am tired out. No, I actually haven't been to that abandoned asylum. I think I'd like to see it, but I don't think I'd like to be there for any extended time. Working in the prison was creepy enough. I didn't work in a prison for future posterity. I did some haunted. I was an unpaid actor in haunted houses that happened to be held in a former prison, which was haunted. Anyway, get back to our narrators. 4th of July is over. The people are gone and I am tired out. John thought it might do me good to see a little company, so we just had Mother and Nellie and the children down for a week. Of course, I didn't do a thing. Jenny sees to everything now, but it tired me all the same. John says if I don't pick up faster, he shall send me to Weir Mitchell in the fall. But I don't want to go there at all. I had a friend who was in his hands once, and she says he is just like John and my brother, only more so. Besides, it is such an undertaking to go so far. I don't feel as if it was worthwhile to turn my hand over for anything. And I'm getting dreadfully fretful and querulous. I cry at nothing, and cry most of the time. Of course, I don't when John is here or anybody else, but when I am alone. And I am alone a good deal just now. John is kept in town very often by serious cases, and Jenny is good and lets me alone when I want her to. So I walk a little in the garden, or down that lovely lane, sit on the porch under the roses, and lie down up here a good deal. I'm getting really fond of the room, in spite of the wallpaper. Perhaps because of the wallpaper. It dwells in my mind so. I lie here on this great immovable bed. It is nailed down, I believe, and I follow that pattern about by the hour. It is as good as gymnastics, I assure you. I start, we'll say, at the bottom, down in the corner over there where it has not been touched, and I determine for the 1000th time that I will follow that pointless pattern to some sort of a conclusion. I know a little of the principle of design, and I know this thing was not arranged on any laws of radiation or alternation or repetition or symmetry or anything else that I've ever heard of. It is repeated, of course, but by the breadths, not otherwise. Looked at in one way, each breadth stands alone. The bloated curves and flourishes, a kind of debased Romanesque, with delirium tremens, go waddling up and down in isolated columns of fatuity. But on the other hand, they connect diagonally, and the sprawling outlines run off in great slanting waves of optic horror, like a lot of wallowing seaweeds in full chase. The whole thing goes horizontally, too. At least it seems so. And I exhaust myself in trying to distinguish the order of its going in that direction. They have used a horizontal breadth for a frieze, and that ends wonderfully to the confusion. There is one end of the room where it is almost intact, and there, when the cross lights fade and the low sun shines directly upon it, I can almost fancy radiation after all. The interminable grotesques seem to form around a common centre and rush off in headlong plunges of equal distraction. It makes me tired to follow it. I will take a nap, I guess. End of this entry. You know how when your wife isn't well, like she's not well enough to really talk to people, but she's not sick. Like, that's when you lock her in an attic in an isolated house that you've rented for 3 months in the middle of nowhere. That's good practice. All right, so we're getting into the next entry now. I don't know why I should write this. I don't want to. I don't feel able. And I know John would think it absurd, but I must say what I feel and think in some way. It is such a relief. But the effort is getting to be greater than the relief. Half the time now I am awfully lazy and lie down ever so much. John says I mustn't lose my strength and has me take cod liver oil and lots of tonics and things, to say nothing of ale and wine and rare meat. Dear John, He loves me very dearly and hates to have me sick. I tried to have a real, earnest, reasonable talk with him the other day and tell him how I wish he would let me go and make a visit to Cousin Henry and Julia and Flora. But he said I wasn't able to go, nor able to stand it after I got there, and I did not make out a very good case for myself, for I was crying before I'd finished. It is getting to be a great effort for me to think straight. Just this nervous weakness, I suppose. And dear John gathered me up in his arms and just carried me upstairs and laid me on the bed and sat by me and read to me till it tired my head. He said I was his darling and his comfort and all he had, and that I must take care of myself for his sake and keep well. He says no one but myself can help me out of it, but I must use my will and self-control and not let any silly fancies run away with me. There's one comfort. The baby is well and happy and does not have to occupy this nursery with the horrid wallpaper. If we had not used it, that blessed child would have. What a fortunate escape. Why, I wouldn't have a child of mine, an impressionable little thing, live in such a room for worlds. I never thought of it before, but it is lucky that John kept me here after all. I can stand it so much easier than a baby, you see. Of course, I never mention it to them anymore. I am too wise. But I keep watch of it all the same. There are things in that paper that nobody knows but me, or ever will. Behind that outside pattern, the dim shapes get clearer every day. It is always the same shape, only very numerous. And it is like a woman stooping down and creeping about behind that pattern. I don't like it a bit. I wonder, I begin to think, I wish John would take me away from here. End of this entry. Don't think the baby has a name or a gender. She's got the postpartums. And addict madness. Damn. Like, damn. You know, reading this as an 18, 17-year-old. Very different from reading it as a, how old am I? 34-year-old. Next entry. It is so hard to talk with John about my case because he is so wise and because he loves me so. But I tried it last night. It was moonlight. The moon shines in all around just as the sun does. I hate to see it sometimes. It creeps so slowly and always comes in by one window or another. John was asleep and I hated to waken him, so I kept still and watched the moonlight on that undulated wallpaper till I felt creepy. The faint figure behind seemed to shake the pattern, just as if she wanted to get out. I got up softly and went to feel and see if the paper did move, and when I came back, John was awake. "What is it, little girl?" he said. "Don't go walking about like that. You'll get cold." I thought it was a good time to talk, so I told him that I really was not gaining here, and that I wished he would take me away. "Why, darling," said he, "our lease will be up in 3 weeks, and I can't see how to leave it before. The repairs are not done at home, and I cannot possibly leave town just now. Of course, if you were in any danger, I could and would, but you really are better, dear, whether you can see it or not. I am a doctor, dear, and I know. You are gaining flesh and colour. Your appetite is better. I feel really much easier about you." "I don't weigh a bit more," said I. "Nor as much, and my appetite may be better in the evening when you are here, but it is worse in the morning when you are away." "Bless her little heart," said he with a big hug. "She shall be as sick as she pleases. But now let's improve the shining hours by going to sleep and talk about it in the morning. Oh, yeah. He calls his wife little girl and implies that, okay, be sick then. Sure, you're sick. Just like when a toddler hands you a phone and you say hello, even though if someone said hello back, you'd be freaked out, right? Anyway, oh, bless her little heart. I'll kick this guy in the teeth. We'll talk about it in the morning. And you won't go away? I asked gloomily. Why, how can I, dear? It is only 3 weeks more, and then we will take a nice little trip of a few days while Jeannie's getting the house ready. Really, dear, you are better. Better in body, perhaps, I began, and stopped short. But he sat up straight and looked at me with such a stern, reproachful look that I could not say another word. My darling, said he, I beg of you, for my sake, and for our child's sake, as well as your own, that you will never for one instant let that idea into your mind. There is nothing so dangerous, so fascinating to a temperament like yours. It is a false and foolish fancy. Can you not trust me as a physician when I tell you so? If you think you have a mental illness, you'll get it because of menstruachlorians, which happen in the female blood to make bitches be crazy. That's just a footnote. That's from my own freelance medical work. So, of course, I said no more on that score, and we went to sleep before long. He thought I was asleep first, but I wasn't. I lay there for hours trying to decide whether that front pattern and the back pattern really did move together or separately. On a pattern like this, by daylight, there is a lack of sequence, a defiance of law that is a constant irritant to a normal mind. Colour is hideous enough and unreliable enough and infuriating enough, but the pattern is torturing. You think you've mastered it, but just as you get well underway and following, it turns a back somersault and there you are. It slaps you in the face, knocks you down and tramples upon you. It is like a bad dream. The outside pattern is a florid arabesque, reminding one of a fungus. If you can imagine a toadstool in joints, an interminable string of toadstools, budding and sprouting in endless convolutions, why, that is something like it. That is sometimes. There is one marked peculiarity about this paper, a thing nobody seems to notice but myself, and that is that it changes as the light changes. When the sun shoots in through the east window, I always watch for that first long, straight ray. It changes so quickly that I never can quite believe it. That is why I watch it always. By moonlight, the moon shines in all night when there is a moon. I wouldn't know it was the same paper. We were just getting going, madam. Skelly Flora has joined the stream. Oh, she's weird. God damn. I don't think she realizes I'm trying to create content. Hey, want to look at the people? Just adjust this. Uh-oh. 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 I think we're good. I think we're good. You proud of yourself? You proud of yourself? Hang on. Hang on. You going to curl up and go sleepies? I'll resume in just a second while Madam sits. Ready? Yeah, I know. Comfy? Yep. I think we're good. Hashtag blessed. What are you doing? By moonlight, the moon shines in all night when there is a moon. I wouldn't know it was the same paper. At night, in any kind of light in twilight, candlelight, lamplight, and worst of all by moonlight, it becomes bars. The outside pattern, I mean, and the woman behind it is as plain as can be. I didn't realize for a long time what the thing was that showed behind, that dim sub pattern, but now I am quite sure it is a woman. Yes, Flora's here. Flora, now you're looking at the people. Oh, you're giving me like 1,000 extra chins because of how I have to sit to hold you. She's undermining my curation of my appearance. So bad, Bella. Can I keep reading? Want to read it? She's a misogynist. She only reads men. Now, I didn't realize for a long time what the thing was that showed behind that dim sub pattern, but now I'm quite sure it is a woman. By daylight, she is subdued and quiet. I fancy it is the pattern that keeps her so still. It is so puzzling. It keeps me quiet by the hour. I lie down ever so much now. John says it is good for me, and to sleep all I can. Indeed, he started the habit by making me lie down for an hour after each meal. It is a very bad habit, I am convinced, for, you see, I don't sleep, and that cultivates deceit, for I don't tell them I'm awake. Oh no. The fact is, I am getting a little afraid of John. He seems very queer sometimes, and even Jenny has an inexplicable look. It strikes me occasionally, just as a scientific hypothesis, that perhaps it is the paper. Flora's breathing right in my ear. She sounds like James Gandolfini. I have watched John when he did not know I was looking, and come into the room suddenly on the most innocent excuses, and I've caught him several times looking at the paper. And Jenny, too. I caught Jenny with her hand on it once. She didn't know I was in the room, and when I asked her in a very quiet voice, with the most restrained manner possible, what she was doing with the paper, she turned around as if she'd been caught stealing, and looked quite angry. Asked me why I should frighten her so. Then she said that the paper stained everything it touched, and she had found yellow smooches on all my clothes and John's, and she wished we would be more careful. Did not that sound innocent? But I know she was studying that pattern, and I am determined that nobody shall find it out but myself. But I gotta hold the phone, and you, and remember where the camera is. Uh, I can, from this distance, I can see chat. I can't read it that well. Oh, you look so shocked that my eyesight's deteriorating. Right, so that was the end of that entry. Where, yeah, I think he probably is having an affair with the housekeeper's sister. Or maybe the wife's got a big inheritance. I don't know. But, yeah, she's just now thinking, hey, maybe my husband, who just loves me so much I have to be locked in the attic all day. Maybe he's not the greatest guy. And the next entry begins. Life is very much more exciting now than it used to be. You see, I have something more to expect, to look forward to watch. I really do eat better, and am more quiet than I was. John is so pleased to see me improve. He laughed a little the other day and said I seemed to be flourishing in spite of my wallpaper. I turned it off with a laugh. I had no intention of telling him it was because of the wallpaper. He would make fun of me. He might even want to take me away. I don't want to leave now until I have found it out. There is a week more, and I think that will be enough. End of that entry. Yeah, that's right. Next entry. I am feeling ever so much better. I don't sleep much at night, for it is so interesting to watch developments, but I sleep a good deal in the daytime. In the daytime, it is tiresome and perplexing. There are always new shoots on the fungus, and new shades of yellow all over it. I cannot keep count of them, though I have tried conscientiously. It is the strangest yellow, that wallpaper. It makes me think of all the yellow things I ever saw. Not beautiful ones, like buttercups, but old, foul, bad yellow things. But there is something else about the paper. The smell. I noticed it the moment we came into the room, but with so much air and sun, it was not bad. Now we have had a week of fog and rain, and whether the windows are open or not, the smell is here. It creeps all over the house. I find it hovering in the dining room, skulking in the parlour, hiding in the hall, lying in wait for me on the stairs. It gets into my hair. Even when I go to ride, if I turn my head suddenly and surprise it, there is that smell. Such a peculiar odour, too. I have spent hours in trying to analyse it, to find out what it smelled like. It is not bad, at first, and very gentle, but quite the subtlest, most enduring odour I ever met. In this damp weather, it is awful. I wake up in the night and find it hanging over me. It used to disturb me at first. I thought seriously of burning the house to reach the smell. But now I am used to it. The only thing I can think of that it is like is the colour of the paper, a yellow smell. There is a very funny mark on this wall, low down, near the mopboard, a streak that runs around the room. It goes behind every piece of furniture except the bed, a long, straight, even smudge, as if it had been rubbed over and over. I wonder how it was done and who did it and what they did it for. Round and round and round, round and round and round. Makes me dizzy. End of that entry. Sorry about the sniffing, but I can't get up. Next entry. I really have discovered something at last. Through watching so much at night when it changes so, I have finally found out. The front pattern does move. And no wonder, the woman behind shakes it. Sometimes I think there are a great many women behind, and sometimes only one, and she crawls around fast, and her crawling shakes it all over. Then in the very bright spots, she keeps still. And in the very shady spots, she just takes hold of the bars and shakes them hard. And she is all the time trying to climb through. But nobody could climb through that pattern. It strangles so. I think that is why it has so many heads. They get through, and then the pattern strangles them off and turns them upside down and makes their eyes white. If those heads were covered or taken off, it would not be half so bad. End entry. Next entry. I think that woman gets out in the daytime, and I'll tell you why, privately. I've seen her. I can see her out of every one of my windows. It is the same woman, I know, for she is always creeping, and most women do not creep by daylight. I see her on that long shaded lane, creeping up and down. I see her in those dark grape arbors, creeping all around the garden. I see her on that long road under the trees, creeping along, and when a carriage comes, she hides under the blackberry vines. I don't blame her a bit. It must be very humiliating to be caught creeping by daylight. I always lock the door when I creep by daylight. I can't do it at night, for I know John would suspect something at once. And John is so queer now that I don't want to irritate him. I wish he would take another room. Besides, I don't want anybody to get that woman out at night but myself. I often wonder if I could see her out of all the windows at once. But, turn as fast as I can only see out of one at one time. And though I always see her, she may be able to creep faster than I can turn. I have watched her sometimes way off in the open country, creeping as fast as a cloud shadow in a high wind. Yeah, it's very vivid. It's left a big impression on me as like a know-nothing teenager. And now it's like, damn, if only that top pattern could be gotten off from the under one. I mean to try it, little by little. I have found out another funny thing, but I shan't tell it this time. It does not do to trust people too much. There are only 2 more days to get this paper off, and I believe John is beginning to notice. I don't like the look in his eyes. And I heard him ask Jenny a lot of professional questions about me. She had a very good report to give. She said I slept a good deal in the daytime. John knows I don't sleep very well at night, for all I'm so quiet. He asked me all sorts of questions too, and pretended to be very loving and kind, as if I couldn't see through him. Still, I don't wonder that he acts so, sleeping under this paper for 3 months. It only interests me, but I feel sure John and Jenny are secretly affected by it. Hurrah! This is the last day, but it is enough. John is to stay in town overnight and won't be out until this evening. Jenny wanted to sleep with me, a sly thing, but I told her I would undoubtedly rest better for a night all alone. That was clever, for really I wasn't alone a bit. As soon as it was moonlight, and that poor thing began to crawl and shake the pattern, I got up and ran to help her. I pulled, and she shook. I shook, and she pulled, and before morning we had peeled off yards of that paper, a strip about as high as my head and half around the room. And then when the sun came and that awful pattern began to laugh at me, I decided I would finish it today. We go away tomorrow, and they are moving all my furniture down again to leave things as they were before. Jenny looked at the wall in amazement, but I told her merrily that I did it out of pure spite at the vicious thing. She laughed and said she wouldn't mind doing it herself, but I must not get tired. How she betrayed herself that time. But I am here, and no person touches this paper but me. Not alive. She tried to get me out of the room. It was too patent. But I said it was so quiet and empty and clean now that I believed I would lie down again and sleep all I could, and not to wake me even for dinner. I would call when I woke. So now she is gone, and the servants are gone, and the things are gone, and there is nothing left but that great bedstead nailed down with the canvas mattress we found on it. We shall sleep downstairs tonight, and take the boat home tomorrow. I quite enjoy the room, now it is bare again. How those children did tear about here. This bedstead is fairly gnawed. But I must get to work. I have locked the door and thrown the key down into the front path. I don't want to go out, and I don't want to have anybody come in till John comes. I want to astonish him. I've got a rope up here that even Jenny did not find. If that woman does get out and tries to get away, I can tie her. But I forgot I could not reach far without anything to stand on. This bed will not move. I tried to lift and push it until I was lame, and then I got so angry I bit off a little piece at one corner. But it hurt my teeth. Then I peeled off all the paper I could reach standing on the floor. It sticks horribly, and the pattern just enjoys it. All those strangled heads and bulbous eyes and waddling fungus growths just shriek with derision. I am getting angry enough to do something desperate. To jump out of the window would be admirable exercise, but the bars are too strong even to try. Besides, I wouldn't do it. Of course not. I know well enough that a step like that is improper and might be misconstrued. I don't like to look out of the windows even. There are so many of those creeping women, and they creep so fast. I wonder if they all come out of that wallpaper as I did. But I'm securely fastened now by my well-hidden rope. You don't get me out in the road there. I suppose I shall have to get back behind the pattern when it comes night, and that is hard. It is so pleasant to be out in this great room and creep around as I please. I don't want to go outside. I won't, even if Jenny asks me to. For outside, you have to creep on the ground, and everything is green instead of yellow. But here, I can creep smoothly on the floor, and my shoulder just fits in that long smudge around the wall, so I cannot lose my way. Why, there's John at the door. It is no use, young man, you can't open it. How he does call and pound. Now he's crying for an axe. It would be a shame to break down that beautiful door. John, dear, said I in the gentlest voice, the key is down by the front steps under a plantain leaf. That silenced him for a few moments. Then he said, very quietly indeed, open the door, my darling. I can't, said I. The key is down by the front door under a plantain leaf. And then I said it again, several times, very gently and slowly, and said it so often that he had to go and see. And he got it, of course, and came in. He stopped short by the door. What is the matter? He cried. For God's sake, what are you doing? I kept on creeping just the same, but I looked at him over my shoulder. I've got out at last, said I, in spite of you and Jenny, and I've pulled off most of the papers, so you can't put me back. Now, why should that man have fainted? But he did, and right across my path by the wall, so that I had to creep over him every time. The end. I would normally say the end, no moral, because of Achewood, but there's a lot to unpack here. I think the main difference, yeah, I mean, as a teenager, thank you, I really enjoyed reading that. I think when I first read it as a teenager, I'd already been like in the mental health system, and I'd been a young woman as well. So I'd had a lot of experience with doctors being like, oh, she's not listening. She just likes to breathe in my ear. But like experience with doctors not believing me and not listening to me and not knowing myself whether there was actually something wrong with me or maybe I was just lazy. So that part really resonated with me. And then, the whole like the spiraling madness near the end was kind of the thing I enjoyed most. I don't know if enjoyed is the word, but it was the thing I liked most about the story when I first read it. But reading it again now, it's the first part of the story, the early part where the narrator's still, fairly lucid, and she believes everything her husband says to the point where she can look at this fucking Mrs. Rochester style lunatic attic, and her husband is like, you know what, it was a nursery, and then I guess it was a playroom, and the bars are probably safety bars, and the rings are probably toy rings to put toys on, and the gate that's bud at the top of the stairs, that's a toy gate. That's something all children have. And she never questions this. Oh yeah, it's a kid's playroom. They love, chewing on the bed and peeling the wallpaper off, and she just never questions it. She thinks, right, that's what he told me. That's what it is. He also told me that there's nothing wrong with me mentally. I just need to rest up. And the few mentions of the baby lead me to, just kind of assume that it's a postpartum thing. And he thinks she's weak, maybe from the birth. But he doesn't want her to think that she has a mental illness. Because, as a woman, if she imagines she has an illness, she will actually go mad from thinking that. Which I would love to say nobody thinks now. But that would be a massive lie. Wouldn't it, Bubby? So there was that aspect of it. There was the mental health aspect, which why was Jenny so startled when she was caught touching the wallpaper? Her name is Jenny, like Jenny, but I think because of my accent, you've been hearing Jenny. It doesn't matter, like it doesn't change anything, but I just think it's funny. I think she was startled because, like the narrator says, she thought she was alone in the room, and you come to this house like in a remote country with your brother and his wife that he's told you is kind of insane. No, sorry, it's funny that I don't think of my accent. Yeah, you come with your brother and his lunatic wife and his newborn baby. We don't know its name. And you go up to the crazy attic. You think it's empty. You're like, I mean, what is the deal with the wallpaper? Why was she freaking out about it earlier? And then suddenly from behind you, she's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" That would make anyone jump. So I don't know if there was any gaslighting as such. Like, I don't think there was any intentional gaslighting. I think there was a lot of there was some I think there was a lot of gaslighting that people don't realize they're doing because they're so sure that they're right and the other person is wrong, and it's just kind of exacerbated by him being her husband and a man and a doctor. Yeah, you're not sick absolutely is gaslighting. Yeah, I think those parts are him trying to gaslight her into believing that she's well so she'll get well. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a classic not talking about real life at all, but it doesn't sound like a classic plot thing. Like him and the sister aren't trying to drive her mad so they can inherit her millions or whatever. I think a lot of the gaslighting is unintentional, and it's just how toxic that relationship is. And yeah, I mean, I don't actually know much about Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I'm going to look it up after this. But she had to have known some real shit to get inside a relationship like that. And yeah, she is. She's his incest beard. What would you call that? Don't know. We'll come up with something. But yeah, she's the reason he can live with his sister and raise a non-incest baby together while the actual wife is locked in the attic. So yeah, he is very controlling. And at the beginning, she's buying it completely. And stop flicking your tail at me, man. And it's so obvious to us, just like it's obvious to people outside of an abusive relationship. And it's not at all obvious to her in the same way that even very clever people, even people who have heard about all these tactics, can still fall into an abusive relationship. It happens. It, it's happened to people I know. It's happened to me. I think it's happened in in Victorian times it was pretty much the definition of marriage. But Gilman she's kind of drawing attention to it. And when is she crazier? Is she crazier at the end where she's creeping? Or is she crazier at the beginning when she thinks that this is love? And I realize I'm very, very tired, running low on my meds, and I realize that I have just made a really, really first year literature student thing. Like, oh, maybe the Joker is the only mentally sane person. Think about that. Have you seen Fight Club? But yeah. So yeah, that was the yellow wallpaper, and I'm really glad that if you guys in the chat want to say your own stuff, we can talk about it for a while. There's no limit to how long a video can be. But yeah, I'm really, really glad that I didn't reread it before I read it aloud. I think this story had the most digressions and footnotes out of any of the stories I've done so far because it is. Yeah, just take your time, Julie. It's no problem. And even if you don't have any thoughts, I'll just talk and ramble. But yeah, that's interesting because that kind of thing and that relationship paradigm is just, yeah, it's a horror because it is so real. It's, yeah. She has to break her mind to get out of it, pretty much. Yeah. And, when she was writing, a lot of the stuff that, right now we're really horrified by, like the husband just telling her, this is what you're going to do. No, you can't see people. Yes, you have to sleep after every meal. That, why would you even question that? He's a doctor, he's your husband. But Gilman, possibly because she is a woman, does see that as problematic. She does see it as not an okay thing. She does see it as not love. Not what love is, not what medical care is either. And she points it out. Hero. Yeah, this has been a really interesting experience. I'm so glad I chose this story and not Herbert West Reanimator, which I really wanted to do because it's really fun, but yeah, I told Danny I'm going to get an air horn, and every time there's something problematic, just going to keep reading, but like blast the air horn. Maybe that's how we can still enjoy classic literature. Not that Herbert West is classic literature. Excuse me, gonna let Fitz out. The ending. Yeah. Well, yeah, now I'll be a horn. Yeah. Lovecraft is like, so we went into the Chinese district and he was a frightened man. Yeah, I actually don't know if she did murder him. She says he fainted. Maybe she did murder him, but kind of want to take a woman's lived experiences at her word, so I'm pretty sure that he did just faint and that she at some point did get back inside the wallpaper. Because that's what she said, and I do believe her. Hashtag I believe her. I think he got pretty excited about the wallpaper thing because she dropped the subject. Oh, she may have. Don't know. I hadn't even thought of that. I mean, like, imagine a person sort of creeping down, like creeping around a room in broad daylight, and it's your wife. You'd be like, "What the are you doing?" And also, she says that she stopped talking about the wallpaper because he was like, that wallpaper will drive you crazy. And she's like, "Oh, well, I've stopped thinking about it." But she obviously hasn't. So either when he comes in and she's real fucked up on wallpaper madness, he's either shocked because he had no idea and he realizes that she's been going mad from the wallpaper all along, or she has not been hiding it the way that she thinks she's been hiding it, and the husband has been completely aware that she's got wallpaper madness. He's just shocked at how far it's gone. Yeah, exactly. It would be creepy. Even if you were expecting it, going into the madness attic and they're just sort of, crawling alongside round and round this huge room. Yes, yeah, I've read some kind of theory about that. I know that green wallpaper, is the arsenic wallpaper, and did it kill Napoleon? Which of you don't know about green wallpaper and arsenic being used in dyes and it killing a bunch of people? Read up on that because it's fascinating. Yeah, old house, old wallpaper, horrible color. There could have been something in it. Kind of sounds like she came to a place with a little bit of Fossy jaw. Yeah, Fossy jaw. Jesus. I can never read The Little Match Girl without thinking, well, at least she didn't work in a match factory. She just froze to death in the snow. She didn't actually, have her jaw melt off from radiation. Well, not radiation, phosphorus poisoning. Yeah, there were so many horrible, horrible ways to. Well, there are still a lot of horrible ways to die now. Chiefly wallpaper madness. But yeah, it sounds like at the beginning she's in this horrible controlling relationship. She's just had a baby. Maybe there's a bit of postnatal depression. And she wants to write. She's really imaginative and he won't let her write stuff down. He's just like, "No, imagination is bad and it will give you hysteria and you'll do all your periods at once and turn inside out." I don't really know what I don't know what Victorian doctors are afraid of, but it's probably that. Um, and she wants to be able to write. She wants to be able to have an imagination. And in the early days, the way that she describes like the road and the gardens and stuff, it's true. Do you know why there have never been any female astronauts on the moon? Okay, this is really scientific, and I came up with this theory, which is true. Um, because the moon governs the tides, as we know, and the moon is in charge of the uterus having females biologically periodicals, as it were. If you put a female astronaut on the actual surface of the moon, the influence will be so great, all of her periods will go. And she'll be like straight inside out. It happened in the simulation, and that's why they've never been able to send female astronauts to the moon. They do, however, still send regular space flights to Jupiter so the boys can get more stupider. Hmm. Oh, this is my longest video. Okay. Actually, no, we don't have to wrap this up. We can keep it. Yes. Yes, John, that is correct. If you put everyone on birth control and you artificially move all their periods to certain dates, you can move the moon. That's why the church opposes it. You know, the Protestants and the rest of the world are like, that's not scientifically correct. But the Vatican, they have all the secret science from like the Assassins and the Templars and Leonardo da Vinci, and definitely the Anunnaki aliens who brought us, our initial technology and magic. Yeah, the Vatican knows. And the first step towards preventing XK class scenario like that is to ban birth control completely. Okay, this video is definitely getting taken down now because they don't want us to know the truth. Okay, bye, Julie. I hope you have a lovely dinner. Thank you so much for making the stream way better and more fun to do. Bye. I'll see you again, I hope. Julie's very cool, John. You should follow her. Everyone should follow her. Yeah. So we can keep discussing the story, or I can turn the stream off and play some Dead Rising 2. Or have a nap. No, I don't feel like having a nap. Personally, I think that he didn't die at the end, but John, it's like a totally valid. Not because of that bullshit I said earlier about like believing her experience about going behind the wallpaper, but I don't know. I think he did actually just faint. I don't think she actually killed him. But look at the very last bit. Well, when she's walking over him every time that she goes around and around. So he was there forever? Nope. I kept on creeping just the same, but I looked at him over my shoulder. I've got out at last, I said, in spite of you and Jane, and I've pulled off most of the paper, so you can't put me back. Now, why should that man have fainted? But he did, and right across my path by the wall, so I had to creep over him every time. just says every time. So I imagine however many creeps around the room she got in, however many creeps per minute she was averaging before, I guess, his sister came up. Yeah. But she could have killed him. Why should he have fainted? Perhaps he didn't. Perhaps he tried to put it back behind the wallpaper. Yeah, very, very different experience on the revisit. Very different and really cool to have been able to share. So thanks. I'm going to try and find some more stories by women writers. I mean, I really want to do more Emma James, but I know his story's kind of back to front, so it could be more exciting just for me personally to go and find some ladies horror. I can do both. But yeah, thank you everyone who was here and will be here and is here for this. Is actually really fun. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. I really like the chat. That's really cool. I think when I get back to reading Awoken and the gender swap Twilight, I'll probably do it in this format in a live stream because I don't edit the videos at all, so it doesn't matter if it's live or not. So I will see some of you, all of you, tomorrow for the next story, which I don't know what it's going to be. Don't bug me. That's Tuesday. So bye. Hello, Dirk Cook. Yeah, I'm really bad at having consistent times for streams. I'm going to have to get better at that, but I'm a creature of wild impulse and strange whim. So, okay, bye everybody. See you tomorrow, I hope. Don't know what time, don't know what story. Bye bye.